Welcome to this episode of Toronto Blue Jays Update. Before we jump into today's breakdown, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this video, and share your opinion in the comments. I really want to hear what you think about everything we're discussing today. The New York Mets finally landed their starting pitcher, and it's the one Mets fans have been desperately wanting all year long. Freddy Peralta is heading to Queens. The 29-year-old just came off an incredible 17-6 season with a 2.70 ERA for the Brewers. He led the National League in wins and finished fifth in Cy Young voting. This is legitimacy at the top of the rotation, something the Mets have been searching for since they missed the playoffs. Here's what went down in the trade. The Mets get Freddy Peralta and right-hander Tobias Myers, but they're giving up a significant haul. Infielder Jett Williams and right-handed pitcher Brandon Sproat are heading to Milwaukee. That's the number 5 and number 3 prospect in the Mets farm system. This wasn't cheap, but when you're going after a pitcher of Peralta's caliber, you have to pay up. The question everyone's asking is, how much better is this rotation now than it was just 24 hours ago? Significantly better. It shouldn't surprise anyone that the Mets and Brewers are doing business. David Stearns knows Freddy Peralta inside and out from his time in Milwaukee. You're talking about someone who gives you an immediate upgrade and immediate legitimacy within your starting rotation. Peralta misses bats consistently. Over 200 strikeouts in each of the last 3 years. You're getting a guy coming off a career season, which is exactly what you want. He's also heading into a walk year, so the 2026 Mets are getting a pitcher who's extremely motivated to perform at his highest level. Can you put Freddy Peralta at the top of this rotation? He might not be a legitimate number 1 starter like Tarik Skubal, but is he one of the 15 to 20 best pitchers in baseball? Absolutely. The Mets have been searching all offseason for a 1A to pair with Kodai Senga. They found that guy in Freddy Peralta. This was a no-brainer of a trade for a team with championship aspirations. Peralta has made 30 or more starts in each of the last 3 seasons. That durability is massive. The Mets needed someone they could count on every 5th day, and Peralta checks that box emphatically. Last season, one of the biggest issues for the Mets wasn't just that starting pitching was ineffective at times. Even when the starters were effective, they didn't give the team any length. That had a chaining effect on the bullpen, wearing them down as the season went on. David Stearns looked back on last year and recognized he needed to put more emphasis on guys who aren't just effective, but can go deep into games. Freddy Peralta is exactly that. Peralta posted the 7th best ERA in Major League Baseball last year with 33 starts. He had the 11th most innings pitched in the National League. That's the kind of workhorse mentality you need from your top starter. This is the missing piece for a true contending team, and the Mets are exactly that now. They're a legitimate World Series contender with the addition of Freddy Peralta. Now let's talk about what they gave up, because it was substantial. Brandon Sproat and Jett Williams are both top 5 prospects in the Mets system. You have to give talent to get talent, especially when you're acquiring someone of Peralta's caliber. The Mets were comfortable moving Sproat, not just because they're getting a clear replacement in Peralta, but because they're extremely confident about the wave after wave of young pitchers coming up through their system. This roster is now constructed with Peralta and Kodai Senga at the top, followed by guys like Sean Manaea, David Peterson, Kodai Senga, Christian Scott, who's coming back from injury, and Jonah Tong, who has serious upside. There's even more talent coming down the pipeline, so dealing from a position of depth and strength made sense. Jett Williams is a player the Mets are extremely high on. He fits the exact mold of what David Stearns wants in a player. Great eye at the plate, gets on base consistently, very athletic and versatile. But his best positions are on the infield, and he's somewhat blocked there given the current roster construction. He's played outfield but still has work to do there. So while the Mets gave up a ton in this deal, these are 2 players they were comfortable parting with for different reasons. Think about the remodeling job David Stearns has done this offseason. He's completely transformed this franchise. Early in the offseason, Mets fans were devastated. Losing fan favorites like Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo potentially leaving, Edwin Diaz situations. Everyone was blaming Stearns for dismantling the team, thinking he didn't have a plan. But people around the league kept saying Stearns is one of the smartest, most savvy executives in baseball. One person who's been in the game for decades said Stearns is the smartest general manager they've ever worked with. Looking at how this roster is constructed right now, this is probably a better roster than what the Mets had going into last season. Stearns transformed expectations completely. Back in December, it was bleak for Mets fans. Now they're definitely thinking postseason. This front office has remodeled the roster and changed the entire narrative around this franchise in a matter of weeks. One more thing people shouldn't sleep on is Tobias Myers in this deal. He's not just a throw-in. This is a legitimate pitcher with upside who adds depth to an already improving rotation. Myers gives the Mets flexibility and insurance, which is critical over a long season. The Mets gave up significant prospect capital, but they got back a legitimate ace in his prime who's motivated in a walk year, plus a quality depth arm in Myers. This moves the needle dramatically for their championship window. Freddy Peralta gives them the horse they desperately needed at the top of the rotation, someone who can eat innings, miss bats, and give them a chance to win every fifth day. David Stearns has turned what looked like a disaster offseason into one of the most impressive roster rebuilds we've seen in recent memory. The Mets are all in, and Freddy Peralta is the centerpiece that makes this entire puzzle come together. This team is legitimate, and they're ready to compete for a World Series right now.